delighted to have you here today for our 7th Poetry Out Loud Finals in Wisconsin. The person that wins this contest will be attending the national finals in Washington, D.C. with a chaperone, all expenses paid, and will receive a $200 scholarship and $500 for their school so they can use that money for poetry. The second place winner will be winning $100, and also a check will go to their school for poetry books. That national finals is going to be held the 13th through the 15th of May. Thank you so much again for all coming, and all the parents and chaperones that have come today. And I might as well start off right away and introduce our distinguished judges. First of all, we have Bruce Deathlison, and if he could stand, please, who promotes poetry across the state as the poet laureate. Hardly a week goes by without Bruce traveling somewhere to read poetry, and he's done over 60 or 70 visits already in the time that he's been poet laureate, I think in the last year. Welcome, Bruce. Wendy Vardaman is another busy lady, a busy person. Edits a literary journal, well known in the state of Wisconsin amongst poets and poetry readers, Verse Wisconsin. And she also is the co-editor of Cow Feather Press. She is the poet laureate, along with her Sarah Bussey. She's busy in that she's active in children's theater, plus her 2 editing gigs, and she has 3 children. And I was surprised to learn that she has an engineering degree. So she is Wendy Vardaman. Last year we conducted this during some rather trying times with people marching on the square, and I was not at all rattled. And our third judge, I'm very pleased to greet, Stephanie Klett, is what every communications major wants to be: a hostess of award-winning TV show, a spokesperson for Wisconsin, and now she is the Secretary of Tourism. She also loves poetry, and she probably knows Wisconsin better than most people since she crisscrosses it almost monthly. Stephanie, welcome. And lastly, the person that I think I love to listen to the most on radio is our MC, Jim Fleming. And he has done this all of the years that we've done this in this theater or up at the Capitol. And I want to thank him very much for being here, and he will continue the rest of the program.
First, thank you very much for letting me be involved in this again. It's a yearly reminder to me of how extraordinarily important poetry is in our daily lives. And if you ever need to be reminded of that, it's a pleasure to come back here and find that it is true again. It's also kind of nice to be here when there aren't marchers outside, but it's even nicer to be here when there are people in Bermuda shorts outside instead of last year when I bought an extra hat on the way home because I thought my ears were going to freeze off. We're pretty straightforward in the way that we do this. Each of you will come up and announce yourself and read your poem. The judges will decide. We will listen to our distinguished instrumentalist, whose name I've already forgotten. Stanley Marcus, who will play for us. And it is not his fault that I've forgotten his name. It's that I can't remember mine on some days. So I'm glad that you are the ones who are memorizing and reciting poetry instead of me. Although I did notice that one of you likes Ogden Nash, and it is easy to remember that candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker. Even if you shouldn't remember that. So, let's begin with the first round. Each of you will read in the same order. You will come up, you will introduce yourself, and we'll go from there. So while you are coming up, Annetta Martin is number 1. She has been here before competing in Poetry Out Loud. She's from the Milwaukee High School of the Arts, and she is a junior this year. She says that she is a very lucky girl. In fact, she said lucky twice in her introduction when asked about favorite subject. She gets to study acting for 2 hours a day, writing for 2 hours a day, and dance for an hour. That's not the way I remember high school, and I am glad that it is for her. Annetta, will you please come up?
Mending Wall by Robert Frost. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen groundswell under it and spills the upper boulders in the sun and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them and made repair where they have left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the yelping dogs. The gaps, I mean. No one has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time we find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go, to each the boulders that have fallen to each. And some are loaves, and some so nearly balls, we have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game, one on a side. It comes to little more. There where it is, we do not need the wall. He is all pine, and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones from under his pines, I tell him. He only says, "Good fences make good neighbors." Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out and to whom I was like to give a fence. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly, and I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage, armed. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only and the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. He says again, "Good fences make good neighbors."
Rosalind Gravrock is next. She's from Holy Family Home School. She is a sophomore, and she is here to read for us. She is interested in math and science because they are interesting, challenging, and informative, things I think we would all agree with. Rosalind, will you please come up?
On Shakespeare, 1630, by John Milton. What needs my Shakespeare for his honored bones? The labor of an age in piled stones? Or that his hallowed relics should be hid under a starry pointing pyramid? Dear son of memory, great heir of fame, what needst thou such weak witness of thy name? Thou, in our wonder and astonishment, hast built thyself a livelong monument. For whilst to the shame of slow, endeavoring art thy easy numbers flow, and that each heart hath from the leaves of thy unvalued book those Delphic lines with the deep impression took. Then thou, our fancy of itself bereaving, dost make us marble with too much conceiving, and so sepulchled in such pomp dost lie, that kings for such a tomb would wish to die.
Isabel Karp is our third contestant. She's from Madison Memorial High School. Her favorite subject is English, she says, for the obvious reason. Or maybe it isn't so obvious. Maybe it's only obvious to all of you. It is so that we are able to explore literature, which is the best reason we all have. Please, Isabel, come up.
Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
Our next contestant is Esther O'Brien from Rhinelander High School, a senior this year, here with Mrs. Allie Johnson. She says, no surprise, her favorite subject is English, because words can change the world forever. Esther O'Brien.
The Vacuum by Howard Nemerov. The house is so quiet now. The vacuum cleaner sulks in the corner closet, its bag limp as a stopped lung, its mouth grinning into the floor, maybe at my slovenly life, my dog-dead youth. I've lived this way long enough. But when my old woman died, her soul went into that vacuum cleaner, and I can't bear to see the bag swell like a belly, eating the dust and the woolen mice, and begin to howl. Because there is old filth everywhere. She used to crawl in the corner and under the stair. I know now how life is cheap as dirt. And still, the hungry, angry heart hangs on and howls, biting at air.
Natalie Steiner is our next contestant from Wrightstown High School. She's a junior. Her favorite subject is art. I think, does poetry qualify as art? There isn't any really question about that, is there? Art, she says, is just part of who I am, and I enjoy taking those classes because I can express myself entirely. Won't you come give us an example?
The Affliction of Richard by Robert Bridges. Love not too much, but how? When thou hast made me such, and dost thy gifts bestow, how can I love too much? Though I must fear to lose, and drown my joy with care, with all its thorns, I choose the path of love and prayer. Though thou, I know not why, didst kill my childish trust, that breach with toil did I repair, because I must. And spite of frightening schemes, from which the fiends of hell blaspheme thee in my dreams, so far I have hoped well. But what the heavenly key, what marvel in me wrought, shall quite exculpate thee? I have no shadow of thought. What am I that complain? The love from which began my questions sad and vain justifies thee to man.
Lily Veldren is our next contestant. She is from James Madison Memorial High School in the 11th grade. She says her favorite subject is science. I love to conduct experiments and discover new things, she says. Things I never imagined possible.
Love Armed by Aphra Behn. Love in fantastic triumph sat, whilst bleeding hearts around him flowed, for whom fresh pains he did create, and strange tyrannic power he showed. From thy bright eyes he took his fire, which round about in sport he hurled, but 'twas from mine he took desire, enough to undo the amorous world. From me he took his sighs and tears, from thee his pride and cruelty, from me his languishments and fears, and every killing dart from thee. Thus thou and I the god have armed, and set him up a deity, but my poor heart alone is harmed, whilst thine the victor is, and free.
Next is Lydia Wilds from Veritas Academy. She is a junior. Her favorite subject wins my heart, music. I love singing in choir and playing piano. Music is poetry, after all. So, welcome, Lydia Wilds.
A Psalm of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. What the heart of the young man said to the psalmist. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act, that each tomorrow find us farther than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still, like muffled drums, are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb, driven cattle. Be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, howe'er pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act. Act in the living present. heart within, and God o'erhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime and, departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time, footprints that perhaps another sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait.
I was just thinking it's a little sad. Here we are not doing the contestants alphabetically, and still we end up with W. It's not fair, is it? Anna Wolfs is our final contestant in the first round. She is from Arrowhead High School near Heartland. She's a sophomore. Her favorite subject is history, which allows you to exist in any time period, any circumstance, as any person you want. Would you come up and exist as a contestant in the Wisconsin Poetry Out Loud contest, please?
The Death of Allegory by Billy Collins. I am wondering what became of all those tall abstractions that used to pose robed and statuesque in paintings and parade about on the pages of the Renaissance, displaying their capital letters like license plates. Truth cantering on a powerful horse. Chastity. Eyes downcast, fluttering with veils. Each one was marble come to life. A thought in a coat. Courtesy bowing with one hand always extended. Villainy. Sharpening an instrument behind a wall. Reason with her crown, and constancy alert behind a helm. They are all retired now, consigned to a Florida for tropes. Justice is there standing by an open refrigerator. Valor lies in bed, listening to the rain. Even death has nothing to do but mend his cloak and hood. And all their props are locked away in a warehouse, hourglasses, globes, blindfolds, and shackles. Even if you called them back, there are no places left for them to go, no garden of mirth or bower of bliss. The Valley of Forgiveness is lined with condominiums, and chainsaws are howling in the forest of despair. Here on the table near the window is a vase of peonies, and next to it, black binoculars and a money clip. Exactly the kind of thing we now prefer. Objects that sit on a line in lowercase, themselves and nothing more. A wheelbarrow, an empty mailbox, a razor blade resting in a glass ashtray. As for the others, the great ideas on horseback and the long-haired virtues in embroidered gowns. It looks as though they have traveled down that road you see on the final page of storybooks, the one that winds up a green hillside and disappears into an unseen valley where everyone must be fast asleep.